I ran the consultancy business for PGS worldwide, and then I started to work more with the chairman on bigger things. So we bought Golanor, the floating production company. We ended up with 4 floating production vessels, and we started looking for homes for them in all over the world and looking at risk-sharing contracts. And we also designed the Banff ramform vessel for Ranger on the Banff field in the North Sea. We bought a lot of various other companies. We set up oil companies at the time, Spinnaker, Atlantis. We did startups, and I was very much involved in the equity financing, and in fact we floated Spinnaker on the Amex. So I've had a lot of experience with public companies. I've worked with Lonhro in the days of Tiny Rowland. He had a public company, Hondo, on the Amex. I was on the board, represented him with Amoco, and I've worked in South Africa too with Moenzi and Zerara. So I have an experience of public companies. When I left PGS, I became an investment banker for a short time. I worked with BNP Paribas, Credit Agricole. I'm just doing a whole myriad of M&A, corporate finance, reserve-based lending, equity issuance, and principal finance. And then I got an opportunity to start an oil company, which really was never really there. I was approached by some French people. And we did that in 2005, and we grew it up to almost 200 million. Taking swaths of acreage all through Africa that at the time in 2005, Africa was just a complete blank sheet, and there was very little in onshore Africa. So we built the company, and it's currently now in a process. We've been selling down the assets because, as you know, exploration is probably less in vogue than it was a while back. It was high impact, high growth exploration, so we sold our positions down, and now I'm under the process of selling it as we speak now to a public company. So I joined Upland not 6 weeks ago, to be honest, through relations that I have with the Asian investors in Upland Resources that were won way back in the day when I was looking at homes for floating production vessels in Singapore. And I was asked in August if I'd like to join the board and represent their interests and help look for new opportunities, primarily in Asia Pacific, but also look to see if I can find some, potential other licenses. It was certainly not my mantra at the point of time to run another oil company. I fancy just sitting back and assisting Steve at the time. Well, 6 weeks later and 2 meetings, I find myself in the position where I promised, because the company really needs somebody instantly to take the portfolio on in the light of Steve's rather sudden resignation, something which, none of us knew, none of us saw, completely unaware. And so, now I'm taking it on. I'm going to work with you, current investors, new investors, and try and take the company, at least in the foreseeable future, from where it is now to something hopefully a little bit bigger in the coming months. And I certainly intend to work quite closely with you all, and there'll probably be a lot more presentations to the industry as we build the business and we look at maybe early monetization, early investors, and the way we try and bring in new deals. So, that's the one thing I would say is normally I'm very much on the assets because that's what an oil and gas company is involved. The assets are the assets, and that's where the value is. I need a little bit of time to address each of the assets, where we are, the point of value, what needs to be done, ongoing liabilities, obligations, proceeds needed, the use of the proceeds. That's something that I've got to get to grips with in the coming weeks. But obviously I'm happy to take any questions or anything that you might want to ask, or any suggestions or indications of the direction that we may go. We're certainly not about to upturn the apple cart and start again. We intend to build solidly on Steve's base and, probably look, for investors very quickly in certain assets so that we're able to develop more assets without extending our reach or stretching ourselves. So I'm very happy to talk to anybody that would like to ask me any questions.
Can I go first? It's Shahid Ali. Good afternoon, Chris. Can you hear me?
Absolutely, perfectly.
Thanks, Chris. That was an impressive CV to start off with. I've got a number of questions, which I'll try to keep quite short, and I won't take up all your airtime as well. First of all, do you foresee Uplands becoming part of Tune Group?
No. That's not going to happen. What I do foresee is there is a series of Asian investors who potentially could open some doors on some quite attractive opportunities. You know, when I went to Africa, one thing I knew was it doesn't matter how good you are technically, and to some extent how much money you have. It's who you know and who can open the doors and make those opportunities become real. And so I think that Upland is in a unique position that it's got some Asian investors who actually can open some very, very serious doors. Now, what it needs then is once those doors are open, it needs you to go in with a model, a business plan, you know, a serious, this is how we're going to add value. So I actually think that they certainly don't intend to take the company over, and, you know, I don't think that, you know, they understand it in that depth, the oil and gas. However, you know, they put money into the company and they're keen to see a value add. So, you know, I think we're going to use them. I tend to work closely with them, but only on a grounds that they are active investors who can probably make opportunities available to us.
Okay, leading on from that then, it's a two-part question. So what's your remit from the Asian investors? What's the timescale? And have you got any desire to be a permanent chief exec?
Okay, so take it in order. So in terms of why did I come on board? So I think the Asian, and you know, you have to pardon me because I'm going to tell you straight away what I don't know. But obviously, back in the days when Uplands was started, I'm unaware of. But I believe that, you know, there was an original strategy for some development. Obviously, you see it in Sarawak, working with local partners. And I think sometime in the year, Steve and the Asian investors sort of started to have a little bit of, you know, divergent agendas in the sense that I think, and that was crystallized by the results of the Wick well, which is always a binary outcome. You know, we can quote the examples on the stock market of companies that are very well dependent, and the results, they're good, they fly, but more likely they're not, they go down. So I think that the Malaysian investors weren't, you know, having sort of big brews. They put their money into the Wick. A large, you know, they underwrote. They were cornerstones in the equity raises that funded the Wick well, or the share of the Wick well. I think that disappointed them, and they wanted to be sure that there wasn't going to be another Wick or several Wicks. So because you know, they'd known me from the past, the sort of brushing of contacts, they asked me if I'd be interested to take a non-executive position, and this was literally shied in July, late July, August. Yeah. And I said, yeah, okay, why not? I'm coming to the end of a tenure of 15 years running an oil company in Africa. I certainly tired of sub-Saharan Africa. I quite like to work with someone and develop and build the business. And so I always describe myself as, although I was a non-executive director for the last 6 weeks, I wasn't an independent non-executive director. You know, there's a big difference. I was there to represent the interests of the Asian investors, and that was clear. So, but in terms of my personal goal, well, obviously I didn't expect this, you know, and I didn't go looking for it, and it was never in anyone's remit that I was going to be the CEO, and certainly not this side of the new year. I not even imagined it, to be honest. I think that, you know, I'm free at the moment. As I said, it was not in my mantra to go and start running another oil company, but I don't give up. I'm quite persistent, and when I take something on, I tend to try and make it happen. I've learned as well from the past, you know, when you get a deal, take it, you know, don't leave money on the table. We've all made that mistake. You know, Tullow made it a few years ago. So, you know, I bring some of the, if you like, some of the negative experiences of thinking that you've got something that's more valuable by waiting. So I'll certainly be looking for early value creation because I think investors don't want to sit at the roulette wheel all the time. And I'm going to continue it until either a natural successor is found or let's see. I guess I throw it back a little bit. Let's see how we get on. Give me 3 months.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. I will just ask one more, then I'll let someone else come on board.
Yeah.
We've held, honestly, a lot of us have held for a long time. I've personally held for 3.5, 4 years, and I'm at the same place roughly at what I bought. So basically, I'm no further forward, and a lot of the people are in the same position. As a new chief exec, what early wins and short-term wins can you give us in terms of progress on Sarawak and Tunisia?
Okay, right. I'm going to be marked and scored on this, Shahid, so you can come back and score.
I will.
Good. I mean, that's important too. I honestly believe that in E&P and E&P management, you do everything and you do everything faster. And there's a reason for that is you never know where the industry is going to be. You never know what events are going to drive your industry and your price. You have to take the deals when they come, and you have to, every month that you spend, I spend prevaricating, or 2 months spent prevaricating, polishing some data, is another 2 months G&A, and it's another 2 months value lost, and it's another 2 months of needing more equity issuance and dilution of the current investors. So I'm going to do everything faster. So I'm already in touch with a very big UAE, Abu Dhabi power group, who I'm very well connected in the Middle East. I spend a lot of time working in family offices. So I'm quite well connected in the Middle East in the wealthy sort of conglomerates. Now, there is a very big power utility house looking for gas projects, and I was advising them, as it happened a few weeks ago, on a Moroccan prospect, which was absolutely awful and couldn't even hold a candle to the Tunisian South license here. So I'm already in conversations with them. And what I would want to bring is instant investment, because industry validation, get some industry money into the project. It dilutes, yes, but it shares the risk, and it caps the upside, but it caps the downside. And it gives industry validation, much more than secondary issuance. I mean, basically investors say, wow, if X is in, then they're professionals, then it must be worth something. So I'm already working on that. And I'm literally going to see the Asian investors next week to talk to Petronas about some potential field opportunities that have been overlooked because of their cost base. And on the way, I'm dropping by in Dubai to see the power group. So, that gives you some idea, and that's all in a week.
Chris, can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay. Yeah. Name's Tunde. Most people call me Sir, but you can call me Tunde as an investor. Listen, congratulations on your new position. I know you weren't expecting it. So for 2-3 years now, everyone's been sitting here waiting for something to happen. Nothing's happened other than a whip duster. I'm pretty sure with the tune investment and the people over in Malaysia, they were expecting a lot more to have happened up to this date. Can you tell us as investors, before I ask my next question, where we lie now, what's on the table, what's happening in Morocco, what's happening in Tunisia?
I've got a different view. I think the data speaks for itself. I think we speak immediately to investors, and we tell investors if they want to have an exclusive on the deal, then they can pay for the reprocessing, make it available, so we get the work done for nothing, and we give them a right of first option. And, that's where I see value being added, because we need to get in there. It's going to shoot money. The money for the seismic is going to be in the region of 5 million, I should imagine, and that's a hell of a dilution. I also think the company would struggle to raise that just for seismic because it's too immature. The market, classic institutional investors, who I hope we will attract to the company, because I know a lot of them, would like to see drill-ready prospects. Now, we're not that in Tunisia. So I want to bring an investor in to help us take a few fast steps forward and cut a few corners, get straight in there, and we can make some announcements for the positive right away, put the share price on the right route. The Sarawak license, I don't know what's been going on there. There's a lot of political issues. But what I would say is it's eminently prospective, from a sort of coloured crayon and hat-waving exercise that the geophysicists like, but it's still exploration, it's high impact, so we need to balance that with, I think, Upland company. I think that's where I'm trying to position Upland so that you've got investors coming in to help you in Tunisia and help us de-risk the whole area of Tunisia, de-risk it, and start, working towards, even talking to prospective gas buyers. And I think at the same sort of time, we start looking for reserves on the balance sheet, and that's working with partners in the Far East, whether they be floating production partners or contracting partners, where we can go in to the large Asian state companies and say, look, these fields that you abandoned, and we do, and there are, we have identified them. We want to go in, and we want to do a study on them. We want you to give us exclusive option for 12 months, and if we find them commercial and a lot of value in them, then we want exclusive to turn them into a production sharing contract, and we will bring in another company alongside us. So it's a kind of approach where, and there's a read-through for that most of Asia Pacific now has huge opportunities in the fractured basement, which is a read-through for Lancaster, Hurricane Energy. The world has become more mature, and so all the fractured basement of the world people are looking at, and Asia Pacific has more than its fair share. So with current technology, drilling horizontal wells across subvertical fractures to reduce the drawdown, water cuts managed, and you can produce dry oil. So, and a lot of these fields that haven't been producing for 10, 15 years have had imbibition, so naturally the water has subsided, so you can produce dry oil for 2 years anyway. So these are the sort of opportunities that I think that we're going to pursue.
Great. Just my last question here, Chris. After being a long-term shareholder, what I've done over the last few years is just see the share price slide. Because time frames, I mean, the world's changed since we, with so much that's gone on. Also, the length of time that it's taken. What are your time frames? I mean, slow is an understatement in terms of the development and the uplift of the share price. And I'm sure the Tune Group, they move a lot quicker with, the people on the board. We know that they're go-getters and they like action. They like returns. What's your time frame? What's your vision of Upland fitting into that time frame sort of remit that they may have after their big investment?
I've even said to them, I think their views have been a little bit slow in my expectations. And to be frank with you, this is going to be a very different ride. It's going to be a seatbelts on ride. I'm going to, we're going to work very fast and try and see, because, if the price goes up and the portfolio becomes more prospective, you'll get me out there seeing me giving talks, going out there giving the institutional talks, out there in the industry giving the talks. We will solicit industry interest in the whole business. So that, again, will be a self-fulfilling prophecy. I hope to try and bring in some, outside coverage from other houses because, Optiva are obviously conflicted in that sense. So, we need to bring in more coverage and bring in potentially some institutional investors when they see that the story's straight and the growth is defined. So I think you'll find I'm very with the Asian side of that. You won't, there'll be a lot of very fast movement.
Wonderful. Wish you all the best and look forward to speaking to you at 5 cents.
One thing I'll say to all the investors, I'm approachable. You will see, you'll see a lot of coming out. We'll put presentations up on the website and we'll be making presentations, as I said, outside. Always welcome, people. And I think it's, everyone owns the company, so everyone's entitled to a share in the discussion.
Just lastly, the time of being able to put a presentation out or a broker note and expecting to see an increase in your share price is long dead gone. I'm sure you're fully aware of that.
Yeah, you've got to keep
if you've got to add value, you've got to put numbers on it. You've got to add value. You've got to get it out there to the market, and you've got to show them that you're going to, you're growing. And in that way, we'll see a return on the share price. And I'm pretty sure that you understand that as well.
Yeah, we're bang on the money. I mean, you will see it.
Lovely. Top man. All the best.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Press #1 to unmute yourself. Thanks.
Hi, Chris. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Hi, Chris. This is Jared here. firstly, yeah, welcome to the company, Chris. It's great to hear your positivity, and it's actually great to hear that you're going to come in, by the sounds of things, firing on all cylinders, to use a quote. But one of the things you just spoke about there was in relation to SWAF and this power company that you have contact with. Most of us within the group or within in the company are quite familiar with the intrinsic value of SWAF in terms of the varied combination of exploration, development, appraisal. Have you got any value put on that? Because currently the way the share price is reflected at whatever we are now, 10 or so million, and we've already got a discovery there in terms of the DK1 discovery, 227 BCS, which if you rank it across what we're seeing in the UK at the moment is incredibly large. What value do you see there? And I know you mentioned that you have a power company who potentially could come in.
Sure.
How quickly could they move on that, or what would you think what would their view be on it, and how would they approach it?
Well, one thing is, we don't think we want to lose control, and I think you're absolutely right about the value. So on a read-through basis, in terms of, stacking up the share price and saying, well, in the current price per share, what asset is really stacking the price? I mean, I think you've hit the nail on the head, and I don't think it's, you have to be an astrophysicist to realize that the value at the moment sits in Tunisia. It's very clear. There's a proven gas discovery. It's got a massive potential. Gas for electricity, the electrification of Africa, it's just going to be a huge story. So it's sitting in an absolute sweet spot. It seems highly prospective, and it's got effectively proven reserves, a very a highly respected, reputed CPR on it. So I think we are looking at the vast majority of the current value of Upland sits in that permit. I'm not sure about the North Sea. It's so young, it's so new, but for me it's very exploration. So we need to temper any obligations, any exploration programs or work done with the North Sea at the moment, and concentrate very much on trying to wring out near-term value from Tunisia. Now, with a power company or a sort of a downstream, midstream type player, they're able to get into, to negotiate the gas sales, because in every gas project that I've ever worked on, you start from the market, and then when you've got a market, you're then able to develop your gas deal, because until that point you don't know how many wells, what the deliverability is, and then you don't know what the gas price can be to make it commercial. So you need somebody that's going to drive forward the whole gas market, the gas buyer story, so that you know how much of that gas you can monetize, because it's no good just being able to monetize 50 BCF of 2 TCF. That's not the story. So I think that Upland should remain the operator. I think we can produce the team that can operate. If there's power in operating, you can cross-bill, JV bill. But I see a midstream or power type company as being able to finance that, but also being able to do the part of the work which is not familiar to upstream companies. That's developing the downstream market, which is very different from oil. You don't sell it at the refinery gate. You sell, you sell gas to a line, and that's driven by a demand scenario. So in answer to your question, loads of value in Tunisia. Don't want to give it away. Don't get me wrong by doing a deal early, but want to see validation of the license and moving the thing forward in the right direction.
Great. Sorry, I got cut off there, but the call's recorded. No, that's good. I think the other thing which has been alluded to has been we've had major interest from national oil companies and oil companies major oil companies as such, and a lot of us were kind of led to believe that we were close to some sort of farm out or some sort of deal there as well. So obviously there might be, given the size of the acreage, there might be potential to get in touch with these guys. Like you said, take a different approach in terms of getting to invest in at the front end or take an option before we need to go down the road of all this 2D reprocessing.
I think so, you know, and I don't, but also, you know, they are big companies. You're absolutely right. But, you know, I don't want the, I don't want the Upland interest to be swamped. You know, I don't want some big company to come in and say, well, you know, you've got 50%, ETAP have 50. Now we want, you know, 45, or it's not material, and then you end up with, you know, really capping your upside. So I want to play that fine balance where you know, when they say, well, it's not big enough unless you give us X. Try and make that balance, you know.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. No, that's great. Look, hopefully your meetings next week with this company go well, and like you said, I think all of us, I speak for all of us here, we really want to see this thing moving because we know the potential is there. We know that the opportunities are there to get some good partners in. So, you know, best of luck with it in the short term.
Well, you know, as I say, we'll give you as much news flow as we possibly can. We're going to keep you very much involved, and, you know, I think you'll see it happening a lot quicker. I mean, just that's the way it's going to be.
Just one other thing, Chris. Do you plan to invest, buy stock within Upland?
Yeah, no, I have absolutely no problems in doing that. Right now, I'm in the middle of a sale of a 15-year project. So the minute that deal's done and dusted, and it will be announced because it's a public deal, I have absolutely, listen, I put my money where my mouth is.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for that.
Can I go for second helpings, please? I got cut off at Shahid again. I was going to ask, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, perfectly, Shahid.
Okay, I thought I got cut off again. I was going to ask about you buying, so that's good. Steve was very closely aligned to us PIs in terms of the Jersey RNS and the 20 million shares and so on, so that's good to hear that, Chris. In terms of financing and funding, what's your preferred method? Because what we don't want, Chris, is to be diluted to death in terms of placings.
Yeah, that was my only, you know, when I've been at one board call and it was to raise money, and that was my only sort of disagreement was that, you know, there were two reasons to raise money. One was for G&A and to do money, to get the money in, but we also, I was told there was another raise due in a few months, and also to get the going concern statement. Now, you know, Toon have promised to write the shareholder letter of comfort, so we don't need to worry about the going concern statement in the accounts. So then it just comes to raising money. Now, I'm a great believer that no one wants to get diluted. You know, I've always, when I'm in the last company, I put my money in at the time we did equity raises to avoid being diluted. Yeah. No one wants to get diluted. So, you know, to be diluted just for G&A leaves shareholders a bad feeling. It's just not a great feeling. So I think, you know, what we've agreed is that there is enough money in the Treasury with the WIC money coming back, plus a warrant exercise to allow us to forget raising money right now and to go into the new year with the current Treasury and see if we can use, you know, industry money, things like bringing in people into Tunisia or even farming down in the North Sea, so that it minimizes the dilution. Now, you know, dilution will always come when we're doing a work program, but I think investors like to see the fact that we're raising this, the use of proceeds is for this, and the value add is going to be X. You can't do that with a G&A raise because it's like, well, we're going to do some more money, spend some more money with the colored crayons. I don't think that works. So what we will do is we'll come back with a use of proceeds, a structured approach, and with it a justification of the potential value add. But right now, I don't think we're going to try and postpone any capital needed, and I don't think the market's in a good place right now, so you're going to have to sort of offer discounts, more dilution. You know, that's all the wrong news.
Just a very couple of quick ones, and honestly, they will be very, very quick. In terms of dilution, I don't mind it, but can we do it at 20, 30p plus rather than anytime soon?
Well,
and secondly, when are we going to be millionaires?
When we all there and we get it away, aren't we? I mean, I think the answer is, and you've just hit the nail on the head, that was my view, is we need to make a couple of structured announcements. We need to deliver a couple of, you know, announceable deals. That's like potential farm out, and that's why I don't want to delay on Tunisian farm out. Potential farm out or a potential, agreement to reevaluate a potential fields with extra reserves in Asia Pacific. The minute you start making those announcements, the share price will start to go up in measurable steps, and then you raise money. You raise money when the share price is higher.
Brilliant. That's exactly what we wanted to hear. I've got no more.
Chris, it's Joe Berry here. I'd like to ask one question. If you're able to expand on it, it's when the next Sarawak news might be available, because I believe there's a load of political things that have to be got over first. Do you have any update you can give on that?
No, that's my understanding too. I'm probably actually behind your learning curve, to be honest. That's my understanding. But I'll be there in Kuala Lumpur next week, and I'm going to try and find out, sit down and see where exactly we are on that whole sort of, what's the politics, how close are we to designing and defining a permit, and how close are we to signing some sort of agreement. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I just actually want to sit down with the people across the table and try and understand how deliverable that is and in what time scale.
Okay, thanks.
Chris, I think you've covered quite a lot there.
Sorry, Sasha. Chris, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
I've got one last question to you, Chris. Sorry, Sasha. Thanks for that. One thing that's been missed for the last 1, 2 and 3 years, and one thing that drives the AIM market, as I'm sure you're aware, is not only just news flow, but communication. And when there's a void of communication, when there's a lack of communication, or there is zero communication, then the market becomes dry, and the share price, depresses quite easily. With the low liquidity in the market and the macro factors, influencing the market in the way they do, communication. If you look at other companies whose share prices hold these times, it's because the market is aware of what's going on, because the CEOs, the directors are communicating with the market, and so they can look forward and they can take positions and invest on what potentially is going to happen, and that pushes the sentiment in a positive direction. I'm going to ask a rhetorical question here, and that being, I'm pretty sure that's something that you have in mind, and that's something that you and the Tune Group understand in this market.
Yeah, I mean, no news is bad news. That's the natural, that's the natural view of everybody, is that they don't hear anything, and also there's a reticence of some sort of management to not to want to put too much out there, because then it'll be scored as a negative. But I think, as I said to one of the other investors, I'm very approachable, so you can always, we're always going to be there. We're answerable to you guys. At the end of the day, I'm only the management. You're the owners, so completely answerable to you, and tasked with finding the value here. But it is going to happen a little bit differently. I'm a little bit maybe more communicative than Steve, potentially. I'm more than happy to get out and give the talks, more than happy to go out banging the drums with the city. I mean, I don't think Upland, I've talked to a lot of my city friends and in Steve-World and the brokerages, and they're like, whoa, well, we never hear from these guys. So, there's, I've obviously got a bit of a network that's different, more the city type network. I do intend to use that. And I do intend to sort of bring a wider coverage to the company, but it won't happen in the next 3 months, but you'll see it slowly. Maybe you'll see it reported a bit more because I'm giving a talk at the Oil and Gas Council and it gets picked up on. You'll probably see it picked up a little bit more.
Lovely. Look forward to the journey, my friend.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sasha.
Welcome. Thanks for that, Chris. I think that's what most of us wanted to hear.
Okay, perfect. Well, we'll just have to give it. I'll be in touch as soon as we start doing things. We'll be very much. I think I'll use Sasha quite a lot, and we'll be quite close in terms of planning how we let the information out.
It's fine with me. We're obviously getting together later in the week, Chris, as well. So
Sure.
hopefully we'll, get some plans together. Okay. I think that's it. That covers everything. Unless there's anything else, shall we close?
Perfect. Thank you, Sasha, for organising that.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Sasha.
Okay. Have a good day.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.